Let's get ourselves started. What a big crowd we got tonight. Yeah. Good evening to you all. I'm Louis Zunguze. I'm the Director of Community Development in the city. With me here are my staff and also our consultant, the senior planner, Steve O'Connor. I thought you were going to say so. Okay. Daniel Butler, our senior planner. He's the principal planner, senior planner.
Steve O'Connor, principal planner.
Yes, and Tuna Zina, our planner back there, and our consultant, Alan Stenback. Most of you saw him yesterday, those that were here at the council meeting. Great. We're here tonight for one big reason, and that is because our department, at the direction of City Council, is involved in a number of initiatives and major projects. And when these projects are complete, they will have a significant impact not only to the way we do business for the development community here in the city, but also for the average resident in the city. And so we thought tonight, and several nights that will be coming in the months to come, we'll be undertaking these types of get together and have this dialogue going on. We have tonight for you for review. This is just basic introduction of the work that we're currently doing at this point, so you get a flavor of the magnitude of the projects themselves, and also that they're long-term in nature. So we're going to be with you throughout the entire process, so you help us come up with all the good input that we can share with City Council when they make their final decision. For us, this is an opportunity to engage you as citizens of the community, and I think it's always important that whatever we do has a flavor of what the community is all about. After all our recommendations and our projects reflect the values of the community. And so it's important that we have that understanding that whatever we come up with as recommendations, it does actually have an impact on real people on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I'm going to ask our principal planner to go through significant overview of the projects that we have for you, and then he'll be followed that up by our consultant. He'll outline the process through which you can get involved in these projects, and also outline for us the mobility plan, which you did outline for the City Council yesterday. All right, Steve?
Thank you, Liz. Good evening, everyone. Steve O'Connor, principal planner for y'all. First, I just want to start off with saying that this is the exciting part of a planner's job, a municipal planner's job. This is the exciting things that we go to school for, what we learn about, what we yearn to do in helping implement the vision of a city, and getting to that point of implementing all the goals and policies that come through in the comprehensive plan. And so, like Louis said, it's a big undertaking that we're doing, and we do look forward to engaging with you all, not just tonight, but many nights now down the road as we continue this process. So if you can continue, oh, I got the control right here. There we go. Maybe not. Can you advance the slide, Tunizina? All right, so real quick, what we're going to kind of do a quick overview of is the various projects that we're undertaking in the city over the next year or so. One is the Land Development Code rewrite, and along with that, there will be some various comprehensive plan updates that will be needed just to align, make sure that both documents are in alignment. We're also doing the harbor capacity study, as you all are very well aware of that. And we'll do some brief updates of where we're at with all that. Stormwater master plan, mobility plan, and mobility fee and impact fee study. And then once we get through all the little updates with that, we'll get to the public survey and engagement portion of the meeting tonight, and Alan will be running through with all of that. Next slide. Does it work? Okay. So the Land Development Code, also referred to as the LDC, like we stated earlier, we're doing a run-through or a rewrite of that. And the purpose is to align the LDC with the adopted policies of the comprehensive plan that we currently have, while at the same time looking at the current policies and making sure that they still are goals and policies of the community right now. The other big piece of it is that the rewrite is really going to focus on bringing everyone's vision into how the future growth of Destin will be. The project itself was approved by City Council back in April in 2021. And the project, as we go through it, will be drafted article by article. We're currently in Article 1 and 2, and that went to City Council last night for the approval to draft Article 1 and 2 and get the ordinance done for that. And then all together, thanks, appreciate it. So once we get through all the articles, article by article, everything will be drafted and then adopted all together all at once, rather than doing it piecemeal, because the articles do speak to each other. And so you don't want to adopt something that changes how you work over here without updating it over here. So rather than doing it piecemealed, it'll just all come together at one time once we go through article by article. And like I said, there will be some updates to the comprehensive plan that will come forward to the various boards and committees, LPA and City Council for final adoption and approval. So the next one is a big one that a lot of people are very concerned about, worried about, and it's got a lot of vision, is the harbor capacity study. Right now, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they are setting up and selecting the vendors to conduct the actual survey, as well as the aerial imagery flights. And so they're actually, some of the representatives for the Army Corps are going to be here in town on Friday, showing some of the new members of the team, the lay of the land, and also so we can have a face-to-face with them, because right now it's all just been virtual. The data analysis will be conducted starting in March and all the way through the high season. That way we get the biggest picture, the best picture of what's actually happening in the harbor at the most impactful time. And then the tentative completion of the reporting for that will be the late 2022, or later this year, the end of this year. We also have the Stormwater Master Plan update, originally adopted in September of 2021. The master plan really is just a tool by which city officials, city staff use to implement what is needed and identifies the deficiencies within the system now, and identifies those capital improvement plans or capital improvement projects that we can implement later on in order to fix those deficiencies. So the project review tentatively is scheduled for city boards next month. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Alan as he'll walk us through the mobility plan and then the impact fee studies.
Hello, everyone. I am managing this project as a consultant on behalf of the city, and we're working closely with the staff to complete this. The mobility plan is something that's long overdue. It's been a long time since the city comprehensively took a look at all of the transportation needs in the city and created a plan that was had city emphasis on it. And it's leading up to a major policy shift in the city where we are planning to replace the multimodal transportation district policy with a mobility fee structure. And what that means to you is that we'll keep emphasizing bicycles, sidewalks, and making improvements to the network in local areas, but also have a renewed emphasis on roadway level of service that hasn't been a major emphasis under the MMTD policy structure. So it's really a shift to trying to balance the needs of all modes of transportation and have emphasis areas across the board there. We will be identifying those needs in the transportation network, so we have a team of technical people who are doing that and working with the staff to do that. We are looking at everything that's on the books and old plans and some of the undone work that's already been identified. And then we're getting input from people in the community who have identified areas in their neighborhoods or anywhere in the city that they would like us to try to address. So tonight we have structured feedback, but I really do encourage you after the meeting to talk to us about things that are happening in your area or in your world that are transportation issues where you think there might be some kind of solution, either an issue or an actual idea that you have, even down to fixing an intersection or things that we care about in this plan. So we want to make sure that we have safe and effective transportation throughout the city and have our infrastructure be well designed and maintained over time. So as we do this, we'll be thinking about quality of life. We know that one of the major issues for people is traffic and congestion, and the second biggest issue is safety, we're hearing. So we're trying to include those things. And another thing that this means for the city and for the community is that we have a renewed interest in safety, and we will be trying to integrate safety considerations into all of our recommendations in a way that I think you haven't seen happen in the recent past. So this project is to give us a chance to evaluate safety and mobility needs at the same time. And it's also the basis for the change to the mobility impact fee. So we will have a new impact fee structure that will be proposed. It has to be adopted by policy by council, but the plan will include recommendations for a new fee structure and be based on the plan. So the plan will be the plan of attack that will be implemented through the fee and other types of funding mechanisms. The impact fee study includes transportation, but it also includes parks and recreation, the library, and the public safety component. The city has those 4 impact fees now between those 3 and transportation. And so we're trying to address all of those. Those 3 topics, other than transportation, will be done through, we're assessing what the city has in terms of all of its facilities and basing the impact fee on a full inventory of the city's assets, making sure that as the city grows, that as each person shows up, the fee will help pay for additional facilities that are needed for new people who come to town, in particular residents. So that's a quick summary of those projects. I guess I wanted to go ahead and move into the next part of this. We are going to have some time to talk with you and listen and have some conversation, but we have first the presentation or the feedback summary, or feedback structure, I should say. We have a Mentimeter presentation, and this is designed for active participation. We have already published this, and it's been out for a couple of weeks now. We have quite a few results from this already. So what you all are going to be able to see tonight, because you're participating in this meeting, is you'll see everything that everyone said already in the presentation, and you'll have your results put on top of that. So this will be maybe the one opportunity to really get a preview of what people are saying. We have a lot of good feedback already, so it should be interesting to see that. If you have already done it, it does limit the responses, and it knows if your device has already completed the survey. So if you've already completed the full survey that the city put out there, then you can't do it on the same device, but you'll be able to see what everyone has been saying and what people are saying in live action tonight. We do have comment cards in the back, so after we get through this, we will stick around, all of us, the staff, and the city representatives, and talk to you all directly about any issues you have. There'll be a little question and answer session as well. But the comment cards in particular, if you don't tell me about your transportation issue, then you need to write it on a comment card so that we can incorporate that into the plan here. And there's a little basket in the back for that. Okay, so this is the start of the survey, so you'll need to get out your device. And Tunazina is going to help me with this a little bit. But you'll need to go to menti.com. You can do this whether you're here or whether you're watching online. So I'll give you a second to do that. If you all could move in that direction if you're ready. You've already done it. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Great. So you go to Minty.com, you enter this code 45472754, and you should see this presentation come up. So the first question is, how familiar are you with the City of Destin's current projects and initiatives? Not familiar, somewhat informed, or informed and involved? I would say your answer should be informed and involved if you're at a meeting like this tonight. If you could go ahead and unhide the results. So this is what we got so far. People still working on their answer? Is everyone done? Okay. So somewhat informed is the top answer. It surprised me a little bit that people would gravitate toward this and feel like they're not fully informed or not familiar at all. So we're getting some people who are just learning about what's happening, and that's good. The next one, what are your expectations for engaging with the city today? And this gives you a chance to state your preferences. I want to learn about what is happening. I want to help shape the future of Destin. I want to discuss a specific issue important to me. And if you could unhide the results. So everyone wants to learn a little more about what's happening. Some people have specific issues to state, but not as many as just want to get some basic information about what's going on. I'm going to move kind of quickly. If I'm moving too fast and you're trying to do this in the audience here, let me know, and I will slow it down. Just raise your hand. How did you first hear about this opportunity to engage with the city? Website, social media, flyer, local business, or other? So we did make an effort to, we've had a lot of people engage with us already, and we really want to understand where people are hearing about what's happening. So you can go ahead and unhide them. Social media being the number one, we've heard that the Facebook site is important. How many people learned about this through the Facebook site out there? You did? Okay. A couple people. All right. Let's keep going. From which of the following, if any, do you receive information about the City of Destin government? Please check all that apply. And Tunizina, I can't see these. Can you, if I can get you the mic? Yeah. I'll get it going on here. Results, Tunisia. All right. So we've got left to right, city website, electronic news releases, government Facebook page, city manager Twitter. The one showing 4 is official Instagram, so not many Instagrammers out there. Nextdoor, then council meetings. Get the Coast got a lot of votes. Destin Life, other social media outlets. Third from the left, news media, word of mouth, and other. So a little bit of word of mouth as well, so that's good. I've lived in Destin for how long? So anybody who actually lives here. And Tuesday, you can go ahead and unhide the results quickly. So we found that over half the people who responded to the survey have lived here for more than 10 years. And there's a lot of long-timers and lifers around, but we did have a good mix of people who lived here for less than 5 years as well, who are engaged with the city. So that's interesting to understand who those folks are. Next, if you live in Destin, which area do you live? Pin on the map. So this takes a minute. Use your touch screen to do this. And we'll go ahead and show you where we've heard from everyone if you want to unhide these. So pretty much a very good mix of people from throughout the city have been responding, and it's good to hear that we're getting people from all around Old Destin out to Crystal Beach and other neighborhoods as well. Okay. Move on. What is your age? Keep in mind this is anonymous. No one's going to find out your age. We don't have anybody under 18. When you look at the results, you can see that we have not so many 70 or olders. I was surprised that we had not as many of those folks joining in on this, but a lot in the 55-69 category, and then a good chunk of 40 to 55, which surprised me a little bit too, that there was that big a representation for that age group relative to the slightly older age groups in this. No one under 8, no young people though. That's kind of disappointing. We need to find some out there in the next month or so. How many people live in your household? And this we found that I think 50% of these or so were two-person households. Not many single householders out there for some reason. I would have guessed that would higher as well. So, okay, I'm going to keep going. Where do you work? In Destin, inside of Colusa County, but not in Destin, outside of Colusa County. I'm retired, I'm unemployed, I'm a student, or other status. And we can show those. So this was also surprising that there were so many folks that work in Destin in addition to live in Destin. I think this is indicative of the fact that you're a tightly knit community is how I would interpret that when you have a lot of people living and working inside the city. Describe Destin in 1 or 2 words, and this is where there's the opportunity to type in short phrases, and what happens is you get sort of a hive response here. So if you can go ahead and show the results. And it creates this word cloud, and what we've seen in this is that we've gotten tons of responses here. Crowded and beautiful, a crowded, beautiful paradise. Sort of the state of it. People really are valuing this place for its beauty, but also recognize that it is crowded. The word overbuilt got put in there a lot, and of course beaches was pretty common in terms of what showed up. Okay. Gonna move on. How strongly do you agree or disagree with this statement? Destin is a very well-rounded community with what is needed to support a high quality of life. So we're trying to get some value statement for people to understand if they believe this. We hope to see this above average here. And if you can go ahead and show that one. So we're kind of right in the middle. So we need to find out through some conversation, why aren't we scoring higher in this category? Like, what is it that you think that we need? And I'll listen in on that in a little bit here. And we'll let people finish up here. We've got a few people voting live, and I want to give them a chance to do that. And what are Destin's strongest quality of life attributes? So if you'll go ahead and show them, I'll start talking, and you can tune in and scroll through them there. So we have a ton of these types of responses from the survey, and what this helps us do is understand what people value, what they think is important, what they want more of in Destin. And so obviously people are valuing the beaches. People are stating that they like that this is a small town. Valuing the community itself is something that's very common. And sort of the weather and the outdoors is showing up a little bit here as well. Okay. Moving on, how strongly do you agree with this statement? Destin is moving in the right direction. And this often gets asked in sort of the national polls that take the pulse of people. And we wanted to see what people thought about this for Destin. And what we're finding is that we're a little below average, and you have a certain number of people. If you see the curve that's on the screen here, there's the orange curve behind the graphic. It shows that there's a lot of people who are down there on the very low end of that question, where they think they strongly disagree that we're moving in the right direction. So there's a certain segment of the community that's got a negative vibe about what's happening. So this is helping us see that, but also we're showing up a little below average in this answer. And so understanding why people are answering this way is one of the things that we need to do as we move forward with this process. What are the most pressing issues in Destin that need to be addressed? And if you'll bring them up as people type in here who are live. Traffic and congestion is number one. Managing development and sort of with a bent towards limiting development coming out of people were things that we heard, and we hear this in public venues quite often. But definitely traffic takes the cake in terms of this answer here. Some comments here about improving city services and making things run a little better as well. Okay, and all this feedback will be made available for anyone's interested in reading this, consuming this later. When we get done with this, we will have this published, and so you'll be able to see all these comments and see what people are saying. How strongly do you agree or disagree with this statement? I am confident we can successfully address Destin's pressing issues. And this was interesting because although is Destin moving in the right direction had a little bit of a negative bent to it, this particular answer squarely in the middle there, and people do feel like that maybe there's a way we can address the concerns that people have or what's happening in the community. Okay, oops. What factors are going to drive the next 20 years of change? So we as planners think about the future and what's going to happen and why it's going to happen, but we asked people to weigh on this to identify what they thought was going to be a driver of change in here. And so, Timothy, if you can show these. Climate change and hurricanes, a couple of answers about that, actually. If you could slow down a second. Allowing fresh perspectives is an interesting answer. And just sort of changing the way decisions making are made or shifting that a little bit. Some people are calling for that or wanting that. And scroll down a little more, see what people are saying. Sort of the tourist economy, some people are saying we have enough tourists, we don't need more. And I've heard that before. And then being responsible about development and that sort of thing is also coming out in this. So some interesting comments from people on this topic. What specifically is missing from Destin that would enhance your quality of life? So we're trying to understand what people value, but also what they want more of, whether that's something the city can provide or some other type of resource some kind of development or enhancement. So some Main Street redevelopment, green space and connectivity, a recreation center with an indoor pool was mentioned, walkability in a true downtown, so a few placemaking things, a little bit about Parks and Rec. Being assured a peaceful night of sleep and not being awakened regularly by a residential neighborhood and drunk tourists, yes. Blaring music, etc. Small town and city center, so a lot of people thinking about the future of Destin and about Destin's character and about how it would be to live here and improving the character of Destin is part of this theme that's coming through in this question. We also want quiet and peace. It's coming out of this as well. Okay. How strongly do you agree with the following statements? I feel safe walking, biking, and using public transit in Destin. The second one, Destin has enough signage for bicyclists, pedestrians on Destin streets. So we have a number of statements, starting with this one about transportation specifically, and we very much want to hear from people about these sort of topics so we can start to integrate them into the mobility plan. So if you'll show the results, you got them? So again, sort of right in the middle here, we're not scoring high or low on a lot of these, and you see everybody, the wave in the back, people are kind of on the fence in the middle of this in terms of agreeing or disagreeing with this first one. Okay, moving on. What modes of transportation do you use to get around Destin, not including exercise? So for trips for utility. Yep, of course there's a lot of driving, and that's, but the walking and the bicycling, I gotta say, not living here in Destin and visiting, there are a lot of people who bicycle in Destin, and a lot of them are driving or riding to work, or seem to be going someplace and not just riding for recreation. But also walking too. A lot of people are expressing this walking preference. If you drive a car regularly for most or all of your trips, what barriers prevent you from walking or bicycling more frequently? So trying to understand the challenges here, if you can show the results. Again, traffic and the amount of traffic, not feeling safe, driver behavior being a problem, feeling like it's crowded, not wanting to cross 98 were the themes of this one. Okay. Have you bicycled in Destin in the past year, either for fitness or recreation, for getting somewhere, or no, I have not done that? So we use dots to show this one. We had a lot of people, a majority of the people who are responding said they rode bikes for fitness or recreation. I know a lot of people have bikes that sit in the garage and they don't ever get ridden. I'm one of those people. I'm guilty of that. But a majority of people here are doing that. And again, a pretty high percentage of people are getting somewhere on their bike other than just going out and exercising. What destinations would you like to access by walking or biking? We're trying to understand where people want to go, and the results here are showing that there's going to the beach, parks, restaurants, the grocery store. These are the major things, and these are answers that residents typically give. I was pleased to see that those are there. I was a little surprised that schools don't show up, but I guess people aren't riding their kids to school. They're basically driving or taking the bus. But restaurants and the beach in particular, I was a little surprised by beach being the number one answer. A lot of people who live in beach communities never really go to the beach, but I guess you aren't like that. So I lived down in Tampa for a while, and no one went to the beach who lives in Tampa. So there's a little different culture there, for sure. What would encourage you to walk or bike more frequently for transportation in one or two words? Go ahead and show these results. So safety, wider sidewalks, more sidewalks, just having a better walking experience and more infrastructure. So we've identified some gaps in the system that need to be worked on. And so that's part of our plan, is to try to create a better network of sidewalks and to have a safe walking experience and biking experience everywhere you want to go. It's kind of a lofty goal, but that's definitely an emphasis area for us. Okay. When was the last time you visited a City of Destin park? So we wanted to get a little feedback on how people are using these within the last week. So the respondents of this are a little bit surprisingly to me, going to Destin parks in the last week or month. Almost half the people said within the last week. So that's a good result. We found people were highly valuing the Parks Recreation system, and so this utilization data is very interesting. What parks or facilities do you or members of your household use when visiting a City of Destin park? And this includes, from left to right, the community center, athletic fields and courts, a few other results, walking paths, Joe's Bayou boat launch, shelters and picnic tables are there at 8%. The highest one is 25% there, beach and water access. Playgrounds and splash parks at 9%, and dog park at 12%. The dog park is very popular indeed. When was the last time you visited the Destin Library? And if you could show the results here. Within the last week, 8%. More than 6 months ago was over there in 34%. And I've never visited the Destin Library is at 29% of the respondents to this. So that was surprising to me a little bit. But having talked to the folks over at the library, they said a lot of people in Destin don't even realize Destin has a library. So I think this is reflecting that a little bit in these results. What library programs, services, and facilities do you use most often? Checking out books and videos, and they have video games. Never did know that. It is number one. Library programs is second there in 14%. And the one on the right there is, or at 12%, is using meeting facilities. They host a lot of things over there, and a lot of people go over there for that reason. Okay. Now here we get into some rank preference. These are really, I appreciate y'all sticking with this. The ranking of these things really helps us see where people's values lie and what their preferences are. So ranking the following transportation emphasis areas in order of importance to you. We have traffic flow coming in here in first place, safety in second, sidewalks and trails third, public parking in fourth, and transit sort of a distant fifth there out of the categories that we've selected. But definitely traffic flow is the number one topic, and a lot of people are concerned about safety. We've heard that sort of on the street, but these results are confirming that. Okay. And then kind of trying to pin people down on this one, is traffic congestion or safety a bigger issue for Destin's transportation network? And we have, they were sort of neck and neck for a little while, but it seems that the traffic congestion is pulling away here as the number one issue in town. Okay. And then this one, if you had $100, what percentage would you spend on the following? Parks and Recreation, Transportation Network, Public Safety Facilities, Economic Development, Destin Library, or Destin Community Center? So here we're finding that Parks and Recreation is a strong lead. Transportation network, number 2 at 23%. Public safety facilities, 17. Economic development, 15. Destin Community Center, 11. And Destin Library down at 7%. So Parks and Rec are highly valued, and people want more investment in those kind of assets. What specific facilities and services would you like to see the city invest in or invest more in? And this was an open-ended question where we're trying to get people to not fall within our structure, but give us some answers that were sort of off the cuff. So we show these. A dog park at Joe's Bayou Boat Launch, not a bad idea. There's going to be some feedback about that, by the way, that was mentioned last night. The city is seeking feedback about what's going on over there. And if you all have not learned about that, if you're interested, you should do that. Recreation center with indoor facilities, better code enforcement, better city buildings, interesting answer. So a little bit of investment in transportation, beautification of downtown, more parks with beach access, sidewalks, roads, and a couple about just generally cleaning up the community and code enforcement. More beach access. How strongly do you agree or disagree with this statement? Destin has become more walkable and bicycle friendly over the past 10 years. We talked about this last night a little bit at the council meeting about the pace of development and investment in this. There's been some investment over time, but people aren't, they're sort of slightly on the negative side of this, that they disagree that that's been the case. I would say there's been a lot of investment in facilities and a good amount of work on this, but maybe some more work needs to be done as people perceive this to not have been improved as much. If you had $100, what percentage would you spend on the following? On-demand transit service, sidewalks, roadway improvements for safety, bicycle lanes, public parking, roadway improvements for traffic, or recreational trails. So it should be no surprise. Roadway improvements for traffic got number 1 from the results we've received so far at 30%. Recreational trails at number 2, which is an interesting response. There are some around. A lot of the side paths that are on the street network really function as trails and are designed that way. And then improvements for safety came in 3rd so far at 14%, followed closely by sidewalks and public parking. Okay. What are the top 3 roads on which pedestrian and bicycle facilities are needed to improve accessibility and safety? And here, this was kind of all over the map. Airport Road, Main Street, Calhoun, Beach Drive, all those were mentioned. US 98 was mentioned quite a bit as well. Calhoun, Kelly. So pretty much our collectors and neighborhood streets were highlighted here that need a little bit more of this type of attention. Commons Drive.
8 and 10-foot sidewalks that folks want. They're already there.
Yep, so there's some gaps. We've identified some gaps. So maybe people are picking up on that, where there are gap areas, but these are very much focused on putting them on the collectors, the city's collectors in 98, and not so much in neighborhood streets. What are the best opportunities for improvement that can be addressed by ongoing city projects? And this is an open-ended question where we just wanted people to think about opportunities in general. Someone proposed an elevated highway over 98. Sort of a big ticket item there. Is it? Really? Mm-hmm. Building parking garages, forcing existing codes. Parking comes up quite a bit. Can you scroll down a little bit? Doing a little bit of cleanup, getting more beach space, for the city-owned beach space, making the city beaches open. Public beach access comes up quite a bit in this. Bathrooms at public beaches is mentioned. Safer infrastructure, recreation facilities. Someone said unknown. Interesting. I'd like to talk to that person. Okay, what is the biggest opportunity for Destin right now in 1 or 2 words? And this really boiled it down. I believe this is the last one. So affordable housing shows up here. Stop development came up. And then a mishmash of a lot of different little ideas that we'll have to get in and dig around in. We will make we'll make all of these words available to people who want to see them. Interesting that stop development showed up. More than one person has answered that here.
Communists.
What's that?
Communists.
Communists? Yeah. It's hard to do. It's not really afforded for in the Constitution. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's it. So, thank you for your participation, and all those who did this before, who are here tonight. We're gonna stop, and we're gonna move on to having a little bit of a couple of questions. If there's some questions about what's been said or some reflections on this, we'll do that now. But otherwise, after we do that, we are going to stick around, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is talking to you. So, yes, sure. If you
Not a city employee. Okay, raise your hand if you're not a city employee, not a current or former council member or mayor, not a city contractor, not a city committee member, okay, or past committee member. Raise your hand. 1, 2, okay, Karen and y'all kind of count because, y'all let them do it. Where'd guy go? So 3 people. So my question that I would like to have answered is, how do we, other than me going home and telling my wife, you're going to take the survey, I'll buy you dinner Saturday night once I see it's finished. How do we get, hey, it works, man. You got to do what works. And I know my house. No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth. She may be watching right now. How do we get more people? Y'all are the engaged people. I see you at every meeting. How do we get the people that are not engaged to answer and take the survey? Give them free t-shirts? I'm fine with that.
This was the best opportunity for the people wearing red t-shirts yesterday to be here.
So people online can hear.
So that's, Jim, that's a tremendous question, because it's something I think our city staff battles every single day. We all do is, we work for free too. We've stepped up to the plate, got elected. The people that we see here tonight, we see here all the time, and we're thankful for them. But that is the negative Nancy's, as you see on social media, we never, ever, ever see in this room. And it's your participation, the public's input, that makes the biggest changes. That's what this whole survey is about. How do we change that dynamic? I'm open for ideas. And as a facilitator, and you do this all the time, that's what you get paid to do, maybe you and some other folks might be able to come up with some more ideas to get more public participation.
So I agree, but I think continued transparency, because I will tell you, just when I walk around my neighborhood, the last time this was done in Vision Destin, had some things that were good. And look, we all have to live with the sins of the past. Nothing's perfect. Staff has changed over and everything else. There's some hurt feelings around town because of that. People put a lot of time in that, and they were either what was said or what was done on all the whiteboard sessions, everything else, the opposite was done. It went behind a closed door and something else came out. You got to rebuild that trust. Well, no, I'm just telling you what people say. And then some of those people, they can't make it here by 5:30. They're still working hard. You talk to them at 7 or 8 o'clock at night or on a weekend, and look, staff's got a life too. I just don't think there's any one perfect answer. My opinion.
No, I agree with everything you said.
You got something else to say?
I agree with everything you said, because we not only did the Canaan group, but the, what was it called, West Florida Planning, and everything that was talked about, put on the boards, you saw very little, if no, change, or none of that implemented. And the people were like, why am I going to waste my time? In fact, when we started with the Canaan, the people from Crystal Beach and other places in the city, they said, you're crazy. You are wasting your time. I said, it's got to make a difference. You have to be involved to make a difference. They said, we've been that path. We did the Saki plan. They got involved in that and was voted down. They're like, you're wasting your time. Crystal Beach is, people have had to leave there. They've had to move. They can't live there any longer because of the short-term rentals, the mini hotels in single family neighborhood zoned. So until we're willing to make some hard choices and some hard changes, I don't think you're going to get people to participate. I really don't. But I did the survey and I shared it, and I would suggest that you continue to put it back out there continuously, repost, because the more people see it, like sometimes I may not go on Facebook, but every 5 days, but I got all my information on Nextdoor. So I would say just repost continually.
I just have a question. I looked at the percentages of the responses, but when I say 29%, I don't know how many people responded. So 29% of what number are we talking about?
So far, we're averaging over 70 responses for all the answers we saw tonight. So over 70 responses have been received so far through this meeting tonight. It's a small sample. We're trying to get to 200, and we'll be doing this. This will be open through the month of March. So there's lots of opportunity to continue to have the word of it spread a little bit, but that's our goal, to get 200. And participation, I mean, coming and showing up is the highest form of participation, but we did want to make it available to people who wanted to do it online, and so we're getting good results so far. So, I'm pleased with how things are going so far, but we need to continue the push to get more people responding to it.
I just wanted to touch on the one thing about plans and impact and what people see. Most communities often miss the mark in the sense that they go for these big, grandiose plans, visions that are almost like pie in the sky, utopia type of things. For us, the way we approach it is that there are things that on a day-to-day basis impacts you. For instance, the land development code. Everybody has to build a home at some point. Garage, a driveway. How we handle that process affects your quality of life. So those are the projects that we have identified here that we're working with the City Council that are really meaningful to you. And your input in that process is what we're seeking. Because at some point, somebody is gonna build a garage, you're gonna build a home. Just the other day, we did a discussion about flood ordinance. And we had great participation in here because those are things that people can feel, touch, and smell, so to speak. So we are taking a very different approach, a very deliberate an impactful approach because on a day-to-day basis, things we're bringing forth to you, like the mobility plan, we're looking at every road in the city and say how it's performing. And we want to have a sense from you, what can we do? There are choices we got to make along the way, and along that we got to prioritize some things. We have identified every road as far as sidewalks are concerned, gaps. We have a capital improvement program that City Council has money in. How much of that money should be set aside for sidewalks? For which streets? That's the kind of information we're looking for. And so we're going to encourage you, and I like the fact that, I think somebody said, continuously do this. We've got a commitment to do that. Most of our projects here are a year to 2 years long. Just stay with us. We are not going to give up on our end. This is a new dynamic that we have decided to take as far as an approach is concerned to try and get that input, because I think it's, for us, it's meaningless that we come up with these plans over here, and then we have arguments about, well, why am I having this standard applied on me? Why am I paying this high impact fee? This is a time to make that input heard to us. Okay?
Now I'm on, okay. I'm sure I don't need this either. You know, I've been doing city council and committee since 2006. So I've got about like Mr. Bagby, a bunch of years doing this. Public engagement everywhere is broke. It's not just here. Having served on the TPO for 13 years, their public engagement is just as broke as ours here locally. You know, when I'm a policymaker, I care what 150 folks say, not 15. And it's very tough when any place you're at, you only get 10 to 20 folks do a survey, and even watching the survey here, I get very frustrated by surveys like this, because you know, we showed 2 slides that talked about spending $100. And the first one was on roads, the next one was on trails, and the last slide talked about affordable housing. In one survey, we're all over the place. And as policymakers, how do you take that data and use it when it goes in 25 directions? It's very hard to make a decision on something like that. So I'm not sure what's going to come out of this presentation in the end, because it's all over the place. I mean, and if I plate the city gold, folks will complain it wasn't silver, it wasn't platinum. If I put 8 to 10 foot sidewalks on 10 roads, I didn't put it on 12 roads. You can't win. And those folks that don't like it will always not like what you do. So I wish I knew how to fix it. I'd love to be able to fix that problem, but it's a problem everywhere. Sorry.
So you kind of hit on my question. How do you take something that's not sexy? The LDC is not sexy, but it governs every single thing we do, you know? And how do you get people to tell us this is what we want? Because I was in the Saki study. Every study this city's done since probably 2001, I participated in, you know, and went to all the little meetings, you remember the municipal resort tax? I championed that, okay? And we passed it, and then Ray didn't do what he allegedly told the mayor he was going to do, which was get the legislature to agree to it. So, you know, and to me, the committees are the answer, you know, because they're the people that care, they're the people that are informed, they come to these meetings, you know, and the 2 most important usually are the Public Works, Public Safety, historically, and the LPA. And so, you know, Parks and Recs, probably a close third. I see Parks and Recs lady over there going, you better mention. But how do we get people involved? That's my question. How do we, because they won't. Nobody's engaged. John knows how he's going to get $5 off his license here.
Well, I hate surveys, but only reason I would do a survey is if there's like a $5 Amazon coupon or even like $5 off your BTR. I mean, that's an incentive that might get people to do it. So.
Who had their hand up first? Okay.
Yeah, this has been very interesting, and Mr. Bagby's question, how do you get people involved? I don't know. I didn't know about the survey, and I go to the city's webpage. I read the Destin log, the Northwest Florida Daily News, and I didn't know about it. I think it's a good effort, and I think we need to try to rebroach trying to get people involved in it. But one of the things that Ms. Shelton mentioned is there's a lot of people that think they have been involved in the past, and they really didn't see a product of their involvement. So I don't know how you fix that, other than you keep trying to get them involved, and you hope that every now and then they get an acorn and they feel like that they've achieved something. In listening to this tonight, and to Mr. Bagby's points, I've served on a couple of committees, and I've come to city council meetings, and with COVID, I've watched most all of them on television, and now for the first time after 2 or 3 years, beginning to feel like it's safe to get out and participate. But let me just make a couple of comments. The multimodal program. I heard that the first time in 2000. If I had the money that's been spent on multimodal, and you don't see a lot of product from that, so I don't know why we keep hitting that one. I really don't. I watched, and you were talking about impact fees and what impact fees were going to help fund. Multimodal needs a lot more than impact fees, and I'm not sure if that's going to be successful. Destin is kind of a unique place. As compared to most cities that's our size, you've got several east-west corridors. We don't. We've just got one. And so you're going to put, multimodal on that. It's going to be very disruptive to the traffic flow and things like that. But I'm not sure a lot of our residents, I'm not sure a lot of our visitors are going to use multimodal transportation. So has the public got to pay for that? I mean, it's certainly, the county certainly hadn't had a lot of success, in the multimodal routes that they've been trying to foster over the last 15 or 20 years. In fact, they've lost routes. Mr. Bagby will remember that I think one quarter the city of Destin actually helped fund the multimodal so they could keep a route open for another quarter to perhaps they could advertise and do better. That route went away. Okay. It's Mr. Woods. Okay. That route went away. And, I'd love to see it work. But, it's how many more times do we have to bang our head against the wall to make it work? And another one of my kind of pet peeves along that same line is bicycling. Now, I know Mr. O'Connor is a bicyclist, and he's the only person that I have ever heard that said he felt like it was safe bicycling in Destin. The guy actually bicycles across the Mid-Bay Bridge. I think that's right. But anyhow, I would love to bicycle. I don't feel safe bicycling in my neighborhood. It's just not really set up for it. You're not supposed to ride on sidewalks with your bicycle, and I'm not going to do that. And we've got a fair amount of traffic, and our traffic typically speeds. And that brings up something else. Talking about a lot of things in our in our city that we'd like to see improved. The short-term rentals, and I'm not against short-term rentals. When I first came down here, I rented my house. There's probably going to be a time when we rent our house again. When I get tired of running from hurricanes and stuff like that, we'll probably rent our house short-term. But one of the things that's going on is it seems like in the state of Florida that short-term rentals is really encouraged. I mean, it's an easy thing to attract people down here. But folks, we've got to control it better than what we're doing. I've kind of gotten to the point in the summer months, I spend less and less time down here. I go up across the state line to try to get away from some of the craziness. part of the problem is that we are putting too many people in houses. I mean, the frustrating thing is that we have houses that we used to refer to them as mini hotels. And these mini hotels will hold from 30 to 40 people. The city has an ordinance, worked real hard at it, a lot of time spent on it. Basically, so you put a capacity on houses, short-term rentals. Capacity was 2 per bedroom plus 4. But you could not exceed more than 24. Anything over 24 is a short-term rental. Do we enforce that? I don't see it. Now, let me give you an example. And this is the most frustrating thing that I have had in, I guess, the last 20 years that I've lived here full-time. We had a house in our subdivision that got remodeled. A person from out of town buys this house. He's going to remodel it for a short-term rental. And he's got one room, a bunk room, that holds 24 people. He stood before the city council as he was, trying to get through the approval process. And he says, I may rent my house and all 24 of them may want to stay in the bunk room. Think about that for a little bit. Thinks that, so he rents the house, it'll sleep 40 people, but he's limited to 24. How many times do you think he's going to be over 24? Yeah, but so that's the kind of things that we're up against. We have a good rule, we have a code enforcement, but we're going to have to get very aggressive on enforcing these things, or I think a lot of people are going to shy away from Destin and perhaps not make it, their long-term living area. But Destin's a great place. We got growing pains. I look forward to this process. Ms. Shelton mentioned the Saki plan and the Canaan plan. I still think that the plan that you've got in front of you right now as we go forward is let's save a little bit of Destin. Let's save a little bit of the heritage of Destin for those people that want to call it their home and live here forever. Thank you.
Thanks. We appreciate everyone's comments. We are listening. I mean, I can sit here and opine on some of this stuff, but I'm listening to what you're saying. So unless you want to ask me a direct question, I'm going to take it in and we'll go on to the next person. So, yes.
So there's several things I could say. I think I'm going to start out with, at the last Public Works meeting, Jim, is that the last one we were at where they were talking about the 3 new reader board, the messaging? Yeah. So it came before us for messaging boards for the city to purchase. So if there was traffic congestion or construction or whatever, I mean, those can be used if those are purchased to also advertise these meetings or a survey. I mean, I know the city doesn't allow the little signs in the right-of-way, but I think part of the problem is everyone who is here at the city probably knows that I wrote an email yesterday because I was very concerned that this meeting was not only not on the city calendar, on the city website, but it also had not been on the Facebook page. Although it had been advertised on the 11th and on the 14th of February, there was not another mention of this meeting, this public meeting, until I sent an email yesterday morning at 10:30, and it showed up on the city's Facebook page and on the website after lunchtime. So if there's anybody who's paying attention to those, you guys had this survey about who's getting their information where. I mean, I can only give you so many other suggestions on how, I just posted on my own blog as I sat here. If they don't know, they're not going to show. It's just the way it works. The other part that I would say to that is our schools. We now have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. We should have city staff there when they're, or however, I mean, I'm not trying to take city staff more of any of their time. I mean, because it's frustrating to me as somebody who participates that I show up and he did the count. There's 3 people in the room that aren't an employee, a contractor, a committee member, a past. I mean, he did it. I mean, that's frustrating to me as being one of the people who shows up all the time, but it's frustrating for me to know that, You guys are here after the hours that you've already spent here, and nobody's showing up. If they don't know, they're not going to show. So I don't know how you do that. I don't know if you have the kids from the high school come in and participate and try to get their friends to participate. I don't know if you go to the middle school and get involved with the band parents. I mean, I don't know how that works, but there's got to be a better solution. The last thing that I'm going to say about that is you're not going to have people participating when you have special interest in this area who are taking down the citizens who participate. There are 4 people sitting in this room who have had legal action taken against them because they participate in the process. And when that stuff's going on and those things are happening, you are not going to have public participation.
Yes, Colin, good. I'm going to pass it to Sam.
Thanks, Marcy. I would tell you that, first of all, the mayor and the council did a great job last night lowering the speed limit on Airport Road. Tonight at 5 o'clock, no one was going more than 3 miles an hour. So even without the signs, they listened. They listened. All kidding aside, there must have been a terrible accident, and I feel bad about that. But I would say that if you really listen to what was being said about the surveys, there is a common theme throughout, and it is safety first. And as a retired safety manager for one of the largest transportation companies in the world, that's near and dear to my heart. So I think that that's where people's heart is. Am I safe here? And if you do that, am I still going to be safe? So their safety is really of utmost importance. And I heard that time and time again. The other thing is, there are 5 current members, 5 out of the 7 members of Public Works and Safety here tonight. There are former members of Public Works and Safety, just as Jim said. So again, there you have it. It's really safety's number one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in this group format? Yes, okay.
Well, I was actually, this is more technical kind of, but I think it goes to where you're going on the study. I'd love to pivot to that. You put up a chart last night, several of them, but one of them where you looked like you were trying to analyze the different types of buildings and how that would contribute to the transportation system and aspects. You recall? You know, single-family homes, multi-homes, townhomes, all those types of things. There was a chart.
We did a forecast of
Right,
those,
of how that's going to
yes.
go in.
Mhm.
My question on that is, in that, because it's already kind of been touched on here, specifically single-family homes, do those all have if you counted 100 and some single-family homes in the city of Destin or wherever you were at, do they all have a like contribution in your forecast model to the transportation system? And where I'm going with this is, my single-family home has 2 people and at most 2 cars. A single-family home that is being overpopulated and is way too dense right next to me that has 28 people rented out year-round on a permit, and the city can pull all the permits and the occupancies, in my opinion, even if they only have 2 parking spaces. Those 28 people got to get here somehow, and they are going to tax all of the infrastructure at a very higher rate when they're going to Destin Commons, the beach, wherever, than my single-family home. And smart people can put an algorithm to do that. I'm wondering if that's been done, and if you've taken a look at that.
We haven't,
Go ahead.
do you want to say something before I answer? We haven't done that yet, but we've done the first run of the traffic simulation off of this. And we are going to look at the relationship between land use and that traffic simulation model. And it will be broken down at the neighborhood scale. We'll look at what's happening there now and what might be happening in the future. So, yeah, it does. So,
The fee structure ought to be that way too. If you're going to bring 28 people in, your fee structure ought to be, in my
Yes, and that's a good point, but traditionally, a traffic engineer would tell you that more trips emanate from a single-family house than from an apartment. But that's, no, I know, but, right, but that's not true in Destin, though, is what I'm saying. Yes, I agree with you, yeah. So it's not here, right, so we, right. I'll take that in, and we will, the,
really return and I think be useful.
the methods are a little coarse in the business of doing traffic simulation, but we can make some adjustments to try to account for that when we put the land use analysis in with it. So I appreciate you asking about that and bringing that up.
So, because
To piggyback on that comment there. So for those of you that aren't committee members or city council members, if I say we get so much gas tax and sales tax in this area to do certain things with, how does that money come back to us? Based on what? What kind of permanent population? That's why his comment is so important, because all those other taxes we use to do infrastructure come back based on permanent population. And Niceville's population now is bigger than Destin's based on the 2020 census. So we're going to get less of the pie now than we were getting before. So if we don't find a way to get money from the folks that come here some way, we keep going downhill.
So that's my question. If you remember the 4 questions I asked last night, that was one of them, was the numbers are skewed because you look at Crystal Beach and you say, oh, well, that's single-family residence and they're only generating so many trips. And that's why I ask, is it trips or is it population? What are we counting in that? Because if it's trips, the factor needs to be a lot larger than, oh, it's just a single-family residence and it's probably got 2.8 people in it, because it doesn't for 90% of the year. And and I will tell you, the one thing probably I am most proud in this meeting tonight, even though we have a small but, strong group, I look at the number of people that live south of 98, because 10 years ago, you would have had one person south of 98 in this room, and I think we may be close to the majority of the people in this room tonight are people that live south of 98, because we've been the most impacted on the city not doing what it should have done a long time ago.
I've had this question for a pretty long time, and it is, what does single-family residential really mean? When we bought here 35 years ago, we bought in a single-family residential area, and it has just exploded with short-term rentals. And I don't know which of you gentlemen made the comment about having your plans aligned with each other. What it says on the left should also say on the right. Those two things should agree. And we've had instances in our neighborhood where a 5-bedroom room house rented, and there were 5 different couples that showed up that did not know each other. They went there for a week. Now, do any of you want that next door to you? I watched one group walk out of a house, and they left the house and walked down to the beach, and I stopped counting at 43.
Well,
Getting back to the question on what constitutes a single-family residential neighborhood. And the last time I looked, our subdivision was single-family residential neighborhood. Can consistently, day in and day out, a house that's rented for multiple families, not related, they don't break bread together, they don't meet the definition of family in any shape, form, or fashion, how does that fit in a single-family residential area? it ought to be in a hotel or a motel, or it ought to be in a condominium or something like that. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm not against short-term rentals. I'm probably going, but when I rent my house, it's going to be for one family. It's not going to be for the 5 people that's got credit cards. It's going to be for one family. And that's part of our problem. And frankly, everything that I'm seeing is that it's going to get worse instead of better. So what can the city do about that?
So as we sit and talk about single-family residential and short-term rentals, you know, I don't know how many of you guys are aware of what's going on in the rental realm of the world. People are renting. I met one. I was really surprised, and I didn't realize what he was doing until I read about it online. He's from Texas. He's from Amarillo. He tells me that he rents at the apartment complex right here by Winn-Dixie. But he only comes down, he's only here one weekend out of the month. And for a living, what he does for a job is that he repairs the cars that are dented through hail. You know, they have those big, through Texas, they have those big companies that are body shops. And I kept thinking to myself, how does this guy who does this type, and he doesn't own the business, he made it very clear that he does not own it, he is the employee. How does he afford to have a $2,000, $1,800 a month apartment in Destin, Florida that he comes to once a month for the week, the weekend? And I said, well, do you have a home in Texas? And he tells me that he lives out of a hotel. Well, I don't believe that. Then I read on the internet what they're doing. They're renting these apartments. They're getting them all fancied up for $4,000, and they're short-term renting them. That's what they're doing. And they're making a profit off of what they're renting. And then I think it was brought up at a previous council meeting. We've got people who are renting out their backyards, like Airbnb. So they go and spend all this money to have these pools put in and these little putt-putt golf courses because they have enough space back there. And there's one here in the city of Destin, right over here off Airport Road. I'm just thinking to myself, how did we get here as a society? And what is Destin doing to control that? Because if they're doing that at the Winn-Dixie, apartments by Winn-Dixie, they're going to be doing it at the apartments that have just been finished being built at Big Kahuna's. And are they doing it at the 2 or 3 apartment complexes over by Walmart? I mean, we sat here through Envision Destin and we were all concerned about what developer was going to build a condo that was too tall. Well, hell, was anyone thinking about the apartment complexes? I know I sure wasn't. And here we are with an infrastructure problem, and we've got too many people, and I don't begrudge anybody for coming here. I mean, it's great when I go out of town and I tell them I live in Destin. They're like, no way. Yeah, I don't just say it, I really do live there. It's a great place to live. But I don't know how much of that y'all are aware of that's actually going on. Like, it's beyond short-term rentals in single-family residential homes, and I am 100% behind everything that you said. Don't think that I'm not. But when I said it out loud when a guy was speaking, oh, that house that you talked about, they're going to have a hard time because you want to know what? I can see them out my back door. And when they're doing their construction, I can hear it. It wakes me up. So anything they do in that house, I'm going to be able to hear. And I promise you, if y'all think I have nothing else better to do, I will be happy to sit out there and count heads every day. I live in a 2-bedroom townhome. Many of you have heard this before. On 3 occasions, I have counted a townhome right across the street from me, has the same exact square footage as mine. 18 heads. 18 heads going in that house, that townhome. I called, I made the call, and it was corrected. But that's the kind of stuff that's going on. I can't complain about single-family residential because that's not what I'm in. But still, 18 people in a 2-bedroom townhome that's really crowded with 2 adults and a teenage child. I just want to make sure that the people that are here in the room that participate with me also realize that those things are going on.
Thanks. Yeah, I was going to go to anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak yet, and then we're going to.
I know everybody wants to go home, but she was talking about the apartments behind Winn-Dixie. I was here when the developer came and presented that complex to the city council, and they too were concerned about this. You know, what are you going to do to keep it from being short-term rental? And they gave this elaborate presentation about how they had this, it was going to be gated, and they were going to monitor the people coming and going and the numbers and the cars and all this stuff. I mean, it was so, I mean, you were so impressed. There's no gate anywhere. So where's the city in this? Why have we not done something about it? That's how we approved that complex.
You're referring to which one? The one behind Winn-Dixie, okay.
So I agree. I mean, there's an issue with cars leaving these houses, but there's also an issue when these cars are going to businesses. I mean, a lot of these businesses don't have enough parking. I mean, there's shared parking of multiple businesses using the same parking spot at the same time. So their cars are driving around in circles till they find one, backing up 98. So.
Agreed.
So I think we're gonna wrap up the comment period right now. If you have anything else, you can come talk to me afterwards, or if you can't hang out, we've got comment cards in the back to the left of the door as you exit. Pens there, you can drop it in there. If you want one of the staff members to contact you back, please put your name, number, best way to contact you, but I will hang out. And if anyone wants to talk to me directly, I'll make myself available for that, so.